On her last night shift, the nurse was given one rule: never enter room 11. She thought it was a joke at first. Hospitals always had rumors, especially old ones like this. Stories passed between staff to scare new hires, to make long nights feel less empty. But something about the way the head nurse said it felt different. There was no smile, no exaggeration, just a quiet, serious warning. "Whatever you hear," she said, adjusting her gloves slowly, "you do not open that door." That was the only explanation she got. The building itself didn't help. The asylum had been standing for decades. Long, dim corridors stretched endlessly in both directions, the walls painted in a pale color that had faded into something sickly over time. The lights flickered just enough to make you question if they were failing, or if something was moving between them. It was her third week on the job. Up until then, everything had been normal. Quiet nights, routine checks, the occasional restless patient. Nothing unusual. But that night felt different the moment she stepped inside. The air was heavier, still, almost like the building itself was holding its breath. She signed in, picked up her clipboard, and began her rounds. Most of the patients were asleep. A few sat silently in their rooms, staring at nothing in particular. One of them, a man in his late 50s, followed her with his eyes as she passed. As she walked by, he whispered something. She stopped. "Did you say something?" The man tilted his head slightly, his expression blank. Then, in a low voice, he said, "It knows you're new." A chill ran through her. "Who does?" But the man didn't respond. He just slowly turned his head back toward the wall. She stood there for a moment longer before continuing down the hall. Room 11 was at the far end. She hadn't noticed it before. Maybe she had walked past it without thinking. But now, knowing what she'd been told, it stood out. The door was different. Unlike the others, it had no small window, no label, just a solid, reinforced surface with a faded number painted on it. 11. She paused in front of it. Nothing, no sound, no movement, just silence. She let out a quiet breath and continued her rounds. An hour passed, then another. Everything remained calm until she heard it, a faint sound. At first, she thought it was coming from one of the patients, maybe someone talking in their sleep. But as she stopped and listened, she realized it was coming from the end of the hall, from room 11. It sounded like knocking, soft at first, almost polite. She stood still, trying to make sense of it. Then it came again. Knock, knock, knock. 3 slow, deliberate taps. Her heart started to race. She remembered the warning. "Whatever you hear, do not open that door." She forced herself to turn away. It wasn't her responsibility. If something was wrong, someone else would handle it. That's what she told herself. But the knocking didn't stop. It grew louder, more urgent. Knock, knock, knock. She walked faster now, trying to distance herself from the sound. But then, "Hello?" The voice was faint, weak, coming from inside the room. "Please, help me." She froze. That changed everything. This wasn't just a noise anymore. It was a person, or at least, it sounded like one. She looked down the hallway, empty, no other staff in sight. The voice came again. "Is someone there?" It sounded desperate, afraid. Every instinct she had as a nurse told her to respond, to help. That was her job. That was why she was here. Her hands tightened around the clipboard. She took a slow step back toward the door. Then another. The knocking stopped. The hallway went completely silent. She stood in front of room 11 again, her heart pounding. The voice was gone. For a moment, she thought it was over. Then, a soft whisper. right against the door. "You're not supposed to be here." She stepped back instantly. That wasn't the same voice. This one was different, calmer, almost amused. She swallowed hard. "This is the night shift nurse," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "If someone's in there, I need you to respond clearly." No answer, just silence. Her mind raced. Was there a patient inside? Had someone been locked in by mistake? Why hadn't anyone mentioned it? And why would they tell her not to open the door if someone needed help? None of it made sense, unless they knew something she didn't. She looked around again, still no one. The hallway felt longer now, darker, like it was closing in around her. She turned back to the door. Her hand slowly reached toward the handle, just to check, just to make sure. She didn't have to open it fully, just enough to see. Her fingers wrapped around the cold metal. For a second she hesitated. Then, the voice returned, right behind the door. But this time, it was her own. "Don't open it." She froze. Her grip tightened. Her breath caught in her throat. That was impossible. She hadn't said that. Had she? She stepped back, shaking her head. No, this wasn't real. It couldn't be. But then the voice spoke again, perfectly matching her tone, her rhythm, her fear. "You already know what's inside." Her chest tightened. She turned and walked away quickly, faster this time, almost running. She didn't stop until she reached the nurse's station. Her hands were trembling. She tried to steady her breathing, think logically. There had to be an explanation. There always was. Maybe it was stress, fatigue, the building, the stories. They were getting to her. That had to be it. She poured herself a glass of water, took a long sip, and tried to calm down. Minutes passed. Then, the lights flickered. Once, twice, then went out completely. Darkness swallowed the hallway. Her heart started pounding again. "Hello," she called out. No response. Then, slowly, the backup lights turned on, dim, red, casting long shadows across the walls. And at the end of the hallway, she saw it. Room 11. The door was open. Just slightly. A thin line of darkness visible through the gap. She stared at it, her mind screaming at her to stay where she was. But her feet moved anyway. One step, then another, drawn toward it. The closer she got, the colder the air became, until she was standing right in front of the door. It creaked softly as it opened a little more. She didn't touch it. It moved on its own. Inside, it was completely dark. No lights, no movement, just emptiness. Or at least, that's what it looked like. Until her eyes adjusted, and she saw the figure, standing in the corner, perfectly still, facing her. It didn't move, didn't speak, but she knew. It was watching her. She tried to step back, but she couldn't. Her body wouldn't respond. And then, it stepped forward, slowly, its face still hidden in the darkness. But as it got closer, she realized something. It wasn't just watching her, it was copying her. Every small movement she made, it mirrored perfectly, like a reflection, but delayed, wrong. Her breathing became uneven. She took a step back. It took one forward, closer now, too close. And then, in a voice that sounded exactly like hers, it said, "You shouldn't have come back." The lights snapped on, bright, blinding. She gasped and covered her eyes. When she looked again, the room was empty. The door was closed. Everything was normal, like nothing had happened. The next morning, she didn't show up for her shift. No call, no message, nothing. When the staff checked the records, they found something strange. There was no room 11 listed anywhere in the building plans. No records, no patient files, nothing. But the hallway still had a door, and sometimes, late at night, staff say they can still hear knocking, slow, deliberate, 3 times, and a voice calling from inside, asking to be let out. You're standing in a hallway that hasn't seen a flashlight in 40 years. The air here isn't just cold, it feels heavy, like it's holding a century of breaths that never escaped. You've seen the floor plans. You've counted the windows from the outside. According to the blueprints of St. Jude's Asylum, there should be a door right here. Between the isolation ward and the head nurse's office, there's a 12-foot gap. But there's no door. Instead, there's a wall. Not the normal plaster walls of the ward. These are red clay bricks, stacked roughly, the mortar sloppy, like someone was in a rush, shaking with fear. Why would you brick up a room in a hospital? You don't do it for a leak. You don't do it for asbestos. You do it because whatever is behind it is something you never want to see, hear, or speak of again. Tonight, we aren't just looking at the wall, we're going behind it. Before we pick up the sledgehammer, you need to understand where you are. St. Jude's wasn't a place for healing. In 1924, it was a dumping ground. If you were a difficult patient, if medicine didn't work, if treatments failed, or if you saw things the doctors couldn't explain, you were sent to Ward 9. Even in Ward 9, there were rumors of the gap. Nurses' logs from 1948 are the last records. They describe a patient, patient 402. No name, no diagnosis, just a note. The screaming has stopped, but the scratching is getting louder. Dr. Aris says the only cure is masonry. 2 days later, the bricks were laid. For 80 years, patient 402 stayed hidden behind that wall. The first hit of the sledgehammer shakes your arms. Dust puffs out, smelling like copper and old paper, a tomb-like smell. You swing again. A brick loosens. You pry it out with a crowbar, and the air rushes out. A cold, stale gasp. It's like the room has been holding its breath since the Truman administration. You shine your light through the hole. At first, you expect a bedroom, a bed frame, maybe a chair. But your light hits nothing, just darkness that swallows the beam. You widen the hole, brick by brick, the clatter echoing down empty corridors. You crawl through. Your boots crunch on something brittle. You look down, expecting glass. It's not glass. It's a carpet of dead moths, piled inches deep, their wings turned to grey powder. The room is bigger than it looked on the blueprints. The walls aren't painted. They're covered in scratches. Not words, but symbols, dug deep into stone. Whoever did it must have worn down their fingernails to the bone. In the corner, there's a bed, but not a hospital bed. A cage, a heavy iron crib bolted to the floor. The bars are bent outward. You walk closer. Your heart is hammering. The smell has changed. It's not just dust. Something sweet. Something organic. On the floor next to the cage, there's a tray of food. A bowl of some kind of gruel and a cup of water. The water isn't evaporated. The surface is still shimmering. The gruel isn't moldy. It's steaming. 2 thoughts hit you at once, and both make you want to scream. There are no windows, no vents, no way in or out. If that food is hot, someone put it there recently. But the door was bricked shut. You saw the mortar. You broke the seal. Near the cage, the floorboards aren't flush. You kneel, moving the moth dust, and find a hidden seam, a trapdoor. It doesn't lead to the hallway. It leads down, into the crawl spaces beneath the asylum. The asylum didn't brick this room to keep the patient in. They bricked it up to hide the fact that they were still feeding something that wasn't human anymore. A sound comes from the trapdoor, a wet, sliding sound. Something heavy being dragged. Thump, slide. It's coming up. You scramble back toward the hole. Your flashlight flickers, the battery dying because the air is strange. You push through the hole, scraping your shoulders. You look back once. A hand reaches out from the trapdoor. Too long, too many joints. The skin is sickly, translucent, like a mushroom grown in the dark. You don't wait to see the face. You run down the hallway of Ward 9, past the empty nurses' station, past rusted gurneys, until you burst into the night air. The next day, you go back with the camera crew and the police. You find the room. The hole you made is there, but the room is empty. The cage is gone. The writing on the walls has been scrubbed clean. The moths are gone. The trapdoor, welded shut with a sheet of steel that looks 100 years old. You check the footage. The SD card is corrupted. All you have is the memory of that smell, the copper, the dust, and the steam from a bowl of food that shouldn't exist. St. Jude's is being demolished next month. People will sleep where that cage stood. They'll eat breakfast over that trapdoor. And in the middle of the night, they'll hear a wet, sliding sound from beneath the floorboards. Some things are bricked shut for a reason, and some things use the bricks to keep the rest of us out while they grow. Check your phone. Right now, look at the last photo you took with your friends. Now, count the heads. 1, 2, 3. Everything looks normal, right? But what if you counted 4? And what if that fourth person wasn't someone you knew? What if they weren't even there when you took the photo? Tonight, we're talking about Blackwood Asylum, a place where reality doesn't feel right. A group of 4 explorers went inside to record the ruins. They took 54 photos that night. By the time they reached the exit, there were 5 people in every single photo. And the worst part, the 5th person was getting closer in every frame. Blackwood wasn't a normal abandoned hospital. It was a private place for dangerous patients. It's been locked since 1974 after a system failure, which basically means everyone died and no one knows why. You're with the group. Mark, the cameraman, Sarah, the leader, and the twins, Leo and Jax. You're the 5th member. You've got flashlights, cameras, and that nervous feeling in your chest. You take the first group photo at the gate. Say trespassing, Leo jokes. The flash lights up the rusted metal. You check the photo. There's someone behind Sarah. Just a blur. Tall, pale, wearing what looks like a hospital gown. You laugh it off. Maybe it's the light. Maybe dust. But when you step into the lobby, the temperature suddenly drops. Your breath becomes visible. You take another photo. The figure is there again. This time, it's clear. It's a man, bald, pale skin, standing in the corner. And he's not looking at the camera. He's staring at Mark's neck. You stop the group. Mark, did you bring something with you? Mark looks confused. You show them the photo. Sarah gasps, because in the picture, the man is only a few feet away from them. But when you look at the actual room, nothing is there. Just empty walls and old papers. We're leaving, Sarah says quietly. But the layout has changed. The hallway you came from is gone. Now it's a dead end. The only way forward is through the surgical wing. Mark keeps taking photos, trying to stay calm. Click, click, click. You scroll through them. In the first photo, the man is far away. In the second, he's closer. In the third, he's only a few feet away. In the fourth, he's standing between Leo and Jax. His hand is resting on Leo's shoulder. Long fingers, broken nails. You look at Leo. He's right next to you. "Don't move," you whisper. Leo's face turns pale. "I feel cold," he says, "like ice on my back." You look at his shoulder. There's no hand, but his jacket is pressed down, like something invisible is touching him. Now you're running. Your flashlight shakes as you reach an operating room. The door slams shut behind you. No handle. "Take another picture," Jax yells. You raise the camera, hands shaking. Flash. For a split second, the whole room lights up, and you see him, not in the camera, with your own eyes. He's standing on the table. His mouth is hanging open too wide. His eyes are black. He's leaning over Mark. Darkness again. Mark. No answer. You take another photo. Mark is gone. His camera is on the floor. Broken. You pick it up and check the last picture. It's a selfie. Mark is crying. Behind him, the man is wrapped around him, like a hug. His mouth is next to Mark's ear. There's text on the image. "I need a new face." Now it's just 3 of you. You, Sarah, and Jax. You find an elevator and rush inside. "We have to go back for Mark," Jax says. "Mark is gone," Sarah replies. You scroll through the older photos. Back to the first one at the gate. Your blood runs cold. There wasn't just one extra person. There were dozens. In the trees, in the windows, on the roof. This place isn't haunted by one thing. It's full of them. Then you check the latest photo. The one you just took in the elevator. There are 4 people inside. You, Sarah, Jax, and Mark. But he doesn't look human anymore. Pale skin, black eyes, standing right behind you. You feel cold air near your ear. "Did you get my good side?" The voice sounds like Mark, but it's inside your head. The elevator opens. You run. Through the lobby, out the gates, into the night. You collapse on the road. You made it. You look at Sarah and Jax. They're alive. "We're out," Jax says. You look at the camera in your hand. You want to destroy it, but you need to know. You set a timer. "One last photo," you say. The 3 of you stand together. 3, 2, 1. Click. You check the photo. No one is there. The road is empty. On the ground, there are 3 hospital gowns, and standing over them is a man holding a camera. You look down at your hands. They aren't yours anymore. Long, pale, wrong. You're not the explorer anymore. You're the extra person. Somewhere far away, another group is walking toward Blackwood Asylum. They're about to take their first photo. And you're already in the frame. The next time you take a group photo, don't just look at your friends. Look at the background, the shadows, the windows. Because if you count one more person than you should, it's already too late. They're not joining your photo. They're replacing you. I went to explore an abandoned asylum, and I accidentally brought a ghost home. I grew up not far from Montano State Hospital, in the far south suburbs of Chicago. As a kid, my dad would sometimes drive my family past it. We didn't go inside. We would just circle the property in the car, for fun. For me, it was exciting and a little scary. When I turned 16, my dad bought me my first car. A little beater, nothing fancy. Of course, the first thing I wanted to do was show this abandoned asylum to my friends. One summer day, I took my friends Alex, Brittany, and Chris to explore. We brought cameras, ready to take pictures. The plan was simple. Park where other people worked to avoid suspicion, and then walk to the abandoned hall. As we approached the building, I felt sick to my stomach. A heavy sense of dread came over me. The main doors were chained shut, windows boarded up, Broken glass crunched under our shoes. We made our way carefully onto the porch, each step deliberate. There was a window low enough to climb through. I looked inside. Darkness, silence, and then panic set in. I froze. My hands were trembling. My chest was tight. I couldn't do it. I couldn't go inside. Chris and Alex insisted I hand over my camera so they could take pictures. I did, barely able to speak. Brittany walked back with me to the car. We didn't talk. I lit a cigarette to calm my nerves, the smoke burning in my lungs. Soon, Chris and Alex came running back toward us, pounding the asphalt at full speed. We quickly unlocked the doors and jumped inside the car. I started it, and we drove off as fast as we could, weaving into normal traffic. I asked what had happened. Chris said he saw a man at the end of a hallway, cross-legged on the floor, crying, rocking back and forth. Alex said he thought the entity used his energy to manifest. He said that's why he felt drained and fell asleep on the way back. Chris showed me something he had picked up from the floor inside the asylum, a newspaper from 1979. I felt my stomach twist. I didn't want any haunted objects in my car. I made him toss it out the window. It took about 45 minutes to get home. We were shaken. We decided to go to Denny's for a late dinner. During the ride, Alex fell asleep in the passenger seat. At the time, I didn't think much of it. But later, I realized it was important. After dropping everyone off, I got back in my car to drive home. As I drove, I felt something pressing its knees into the back of my seat. The feeling was unmistakable. It was the same feeling you get when someone sits behind you on a bus in high school. I yelped and sat up straight, making sure my back wasn't touching the seat. I drove home faster than I ever had. The next day, I picked up my cousin, Emily, to go to the movies. As soon as I got in the car, she blurted out, "I think someone is in your back seat." I froze. I hadn't told her about the asylum trip. I asked her which seat, and of course, it was behind the driver's seat. That night, I had a dream. A man appeared to me, Caucasian, mid-30s, brown hair, partially bald, brown eyes. He wore a white cotton vest. In the dream, he was guiding me through a series of traps. He held me by the elbow and walked with me. He seemed sweet, harmless, maybe a guardian, I thought. But these dreams didn't stop. And soon, friends who hadn't been to the asylum started experiencing things in my car. Brittany heard someone whisper in her ear. Chris felt an elbow grab him. I felt the knees pressing on my back multiple times. Sometimes, it felt like someone was shaking my seat violently. I was on edge. I didn't feel like he was a guardian anymore. Fear consumed me. I prayed whenever I entered my house, hoping he wouldn't follow me inside. I was afraid to go out with friends. I was afraid to sleep. Finally, about a week and a half later, I spoke to Alex again. I asked him if he remembered what the man looked like. He said, balding, white vest, and I think his name was David. I told my parents. They suggested I tell David that he couldn't follow me anymore, to go to the light, to leave. I was ready to do anything to be free of him. So one day, Alex and I went back to the asylum. During the daytime, we just sat in the car outside. I spoke aloud, telling David, "You don't belong here with me. You need to go home." I prayed. I imagined him leaving me. I envisioned him going back to the asylum. Inside the building, doors slammed. I heard laughter, but I knew he was leaving. After that day, I never dreamt of him again, and I never felt him in my car again. Looking back, I still can't explain it. Maybe it was a spirit. Maybe it was something else. All I know is, I accidentally brought a ghost home from an abandoned asylum, and for 2 weeks he haunted me, my dreams, and my car. Some places aren't just abandoned. Some things follow you. It all started one night with me and a couple of my friends hanging out at my place. For the sake of this story, I'll call my 2 friends, Michael and Lucas. We were drinking cheap bourbon that Michael had brought, and by around 2 a.m., we were all pretty wasted. Lucas, still a bit drunk, suddenly suggested, "Why don't we go check out the abandoned asylum?" At first I laughed, but then I thought about it, and honestly, why not? We all live in a small town. There isn't much to do here. But if you drive about 15 miles on the back roads, you eventually come across the old mental hospital. It had been abandoned since the 1960s. No one knew exactly why, but it had been sitting there for decades. Empty, silent, creepy as hell. We agreed, grabbed our backpacks, some water, 3 flashlights, and a big hunting knife for protection. Lucas, of course, brought his graffiti cans. He was obsessed with it at the time. The drive there was mostly uneventful, except that Michael almost ran over a rattlesnake lying in the middle of the road. We all jumped and swerved, hearts racing. When we finally arrived, the sight of the huge asylum made my stomach turn. Decades of abandonment had given it this dark, foreboding presence. Michael and Lucas didn't seem to notice. They were already running around the building, searching for a way in. We found a window that wasn't fully boarded, small enough to crawl through. I went first, head first. The moment I stepped inside, darkness swallowed us. My eyes slowly adjusted. I could barely see the hallway stretching in front of us. We turned on our flashlights. The beams cut through the dark, revealing long corridors. Rooms lined the walls, graffiti everywhere, bright colors, messy handwriting, eerie messages. Lucas suggested we look for a basement entrance. He wanted a free wall to spray. We wandered for about 30 minutes before finding it. The stairs were rusty, creaking with every step. The air smelled terrible. Rotten eggs, vomit, something I can't even describe. Lucas immediately ran down a hallway. Michael and I followed, keeping pace. The basement walls were strangely clean, unlike the floors above. It was as if no one had explored down here before. Everything felt wrong, silent except for our footsteps, echoing down the long hallways. Then Lucas started shaking his graffiti cans, preparing for his piece. I remember thinking, why now? The hissing of the spray mixed with that horrible smell. He painted a wall. Michael and I watched, uneasy. When he finished, the smell of aerosol almost overpowered the stench in the basement. We moved down the hallway. That's when I saw the room. The smell was worse here. Rotten, rancid, suffocating. I held the hunting knife tight in my hand. I shined my flashlight inside. And then I saw it. A circle of burned-out candles. In the center, a dark object hanging from the ceiling. I gagged, couldn't hold it in. I vomited right there. Michael, ever the brave one, stepped forward. He grabbed a metal bar from a pile of junk nearby, poked at the object. That's when we noticed the dark brown stains on the floor. A massive amount. It looked horrible. Suddenly, we heard it. Voices, fast footsteps coming from the other hallway. Our hearts raced. Adrenaline hit like a freight train. We ran. I've never run so fast in my life. We reached the stairs, sprinting through the floor. Finally, we got to the window we had entered from. Michael vomited again. Lucas froze. He had left his backpack, full of personal belongings, in the basement. We didn't have time to go back. We sprinted to my car, got in, and drove as fast as we could out of there. On the drive back, the reality of what we had seen started to sink in. We couldn't explain it. Maybe it was some kind of satanic ritual. Maybe we had stumbled across a murder scene. We didn't know. None of us ever told anyone this story, except between ourselves. Lucas told me he hadn't slept well since that night. His backpack contained his wallet, his ID, even his home address. Every time he thought about it, he got chills. We all agreed. Some places aren't just abandoned. Some places hold on to what happened there. And sometimes they leave traces that make you question reality. I took a night shift job at an abandoned asylum, and on my third night, I realized something was still living inside. It wasn't supposed to be like that. The building had been shut down for years. Most of it was condemned, but a small section of the property had recently been bought by a private company. They weren't restoring it. Not yet. They just needed someone to watch the place overnight. Security. That someone ended up being me. The pay was decent. The job sounded easy. Just sit in a guard room, check a few hallways every couple of hours, and make sure no one broke in. Simple. At least, that's what I thought. My first night was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that presses against your ears. No wind. No insects. Nothing. Just long, empty corridors, and the faint hum of old electrical wiring. The building still had power in certain areas. Dim lights flickered overhead, barely enough to see. Paint peeled off the walls. Old hospital beds were left behind. Some rooms still had restraints attached. I remember stopping at one doorway, just staring inside. The mattress was still there, stained, sunken in the middle, like someone had been lying there for years and never got up. I told myself it was just my imagination. Second night, things started to feel different, not dangerous, just off. I kept hearing small noises, soft footsteps, distant knocking. Every time I checked, nothing was there. I blamed it on the building settling, old pipes, wind through broken windows. That's what people always say, right? By the third night, I stopped believing that. It started around 2:30 a.m. I was sitting in the security room, watching the monitors. Most of the cameras didn't work, just a few in the main corridors. That's when I saw him, a man, walking slowly down one of the hallways. I froze. He wasn't supposed to be there. No one was. He was wearing what looked like a hospital gown, thin, loose, dragging slightly as he walked. His head was tilted down, like he was staring at the floor. I grabbed my flashlight immediately. Probably just a trespasser, I told myself. But something didn't feel right. The way he moved, it was too slow, too controlled. Like he wasn't in a hurry. Like he belonged there. I left the security room and made my way toward that hallway. My footsteps echoed loudly, too loudly. The deeper I went, the colder it got. I turned the corner, and the hallway was empty, completely empty. No doors opening, no footsteps, nothing. I checked every room, no one. I stood there for a moment, trying to process what I had just seen. Then, I heard it. A voice. Soft. Barely above a whisper. Hello. It came from behind me. I turned around so fast, my flashlight almost slipped from my hand. Nothing. Just the empty hallway again. I felt my chest tighten. Security, I called out. If someone's here, you need to leave. Silence. Then, a faint sound. Bare feet on the floor. Slow steps. Somewhere. Close. I followed the sound. It led me deeper into the building, toward a section that wasn't even on my patrol route. I hesitated, Something in my head told me to turn back, but I didn't. I kept going. The hallway narrowed. Lights flickered overhead. At the very end, there was a door, slightly open. I knew that's where the sound was coming from. I pushed the door open slowly. The room inside was different, cleaner, not like the rest of the building. There was a chair in the center, and sitting in that chair was the man, the same man I saw on the cameras. He was facing away from me, completely still. I couldn't hear him breathing, couldn't see him move. "Hey," I said carefully. No response. I stepped closer. Each step felt heavier than the last. "Sir, you're not supposed to be here." Still nothing. I reached out and placed my hand on his shoulder. Cold. Not just cold, ice cold. The second I touched him, he spoke. "I've been waiting." His voice was wrong, too calm, too empty. I stumbled back. "What?" Slowly, he stood up and turned around. His eyes, they didn't look right. Too dark, too hollow, like there was nothing behind them. "You're late," he said. My heart was pounding now. I don't know what you mean," I replied. He tilted his head slightly. "They always come back," he whispered. Then he smiled, and I swear, his mouth stretched wider than it should have. I turned and ran. I didn't care anymore. I ran through the hallway, past rooms, past broken equipment, back toward the security office. Behind me, I heard footsteps, fast, getting closer, bare feet slapping against the floor. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I reached the office, slammed the door shut, and locked it. The footsteps stopped, right outside. Silence. Then, a soft knock. 3 times. I held my breath. Another knock. Then, his voice. "You forgot to check me out." I didn't move, didn't speak, didn't breathe. After a few seconds, it stopped. The rest of the night, nothing happened. No footsteps, no voices, just silence again. When my shift ended, I left immediately. I didn't even wait for my replacement. Later that day, I contacted the company and told them I was quitting. They didn't argue, didn't even ask why. That part still bothers me. A few days later, I went online and searched for records about the asylum. That's when I found it. An old report from the 1970s about a patient, a man who believed he was still checked into the hospital long after it had been shut down. He would sit in empty rooms, waiting for staff to come discharge him. He refused to leave, even when they tried to force him out. One night, he disappeared. No one ever found him, but staff reported hearing knocking and a voice asking to be checked out. I never went back to that place.